Here we are for my TR6060 T56 Magnum rebuild. Just a heads up, this is my very first time doing this. So I'm gonna fumble, I'm gonna stumble. I may not do it the way you like it to be done, but you're the one watching my video to learn how to do this. So come along, hang out. I got it done. This is actually after it's pretty much complete here. So everything has turned out great so far. Cut me some slack, man. We're gonna have some fun. This is a tough rebuild, but you can do it. I certainly did. I got a little frustrated, but hopefully watching this video will make you feel a little bit more at ease. If you're the home mechanic, this is for you. I'm doing this because not everybody out there can afford a $3,000 rebuild plus R&R price to pull the thing and put it back in. Right? I mean, this stuff gets expensive. So, I mean, shops are charging $3,000 on a rebuild, and that's bench labor for these things. I know that because I've called around. You can get this rebuild. This is a stage 2 rebuild, and you can get this rebuilt for stage 2 upgrades for $1,000, $700. It's not that expensive. So anyhow, just a couple of other things to touch on. Keep in mind here that I get 97% positive feedback from you guys. The other 2 or 3% expect to have this wonderfully professional video with music and fade scenes. I don't know, whatever. I'm doing this for free. I work a normal job, 8 to 4, right? Or 8 to 5. And I come here in my garage and I turn wrenches just to have fun, you know, just like the rest of you guys. And I learned all this stuff pretty much before the days of YouTube and the internet. Now, I'm not that old, but I'm old enough to have been right kind of at the beginning before this happened. And so it takes a lot of years of experience to build up, especially when there's no YouTube out there to show you step-by-step stuff. So have a little patience with people like us who do this for free. You know, we're just trying to help you guys out. And if we make mistakes, we might fumble, you know, do something you don't agree with. Don't put us on full blast. You're just going to get blocked and the comment's going to get deleted. So, and I get frustrated, you know. I'm trying to help people out here because I enjoy doing this. I'm trying to keep the hobby alive. You know, we got electric vehicles coming. Is it going to be the death of muscle cars? Who knows? People thought it was when the fuel injection came out. Regardless, be nice. This is going to be a long, boring video, but I got it done, and you can too. Nope. So here I am, about to watch some TV, thinking about throwing this together and putting it up on YouTube. So it might take a while. I got a lot of video to go through, but quickly wanted to mention I'm not shimming this unit. So if you're looking for shim specs on this transmission, you're not going to get them here. I did find them on Google. Doesn't seem that bad. Seems a lot easier than the old Tremec T56, the original one. There's only 2 spots to shim these. There's no countershaft extension. It's a one-piece countershaft now. So the shimming on this seems really straightforward. Maybe in the future I'll put up a video on shimming these. So, but if you get this far on building it, it should be easy enough to look up the specs on how to do it on Google. I found it in 2 or 3 minutes. All right, so I'm going to record this. I'm going to put this as in the beginning and in the end. So you've got 3 items. Okay, the first is this lines up with, I don't know what it's called, but it lines up with the shift rod in there. And this drops in straight like that, right? The ball facing that way. Okay, now the next is the spring. And finally, you've got the nut. So in the first step, the very first thing when you start building this transmission, you pull that nut, you go in there and you pull this stuff out, right? Once you get the spring out, you put that in there and then you grab that out, right? And of course, this is the second to final step also. The final step being to torque the flange on, which we'll do next. So I'm gonna tighten this down. Okay, as I mentioned, this is a 2015 Camaro SS TR6060. I believe this is called a Sicky shifter. Anyway, this one seems to shift in all gears except for 6. I don't know what's going on. This is supposed to actually be a good transmission, so I wasn't anticipating that. I'm wondering if it's this that's hanging up. Regardless, let's start. Get yourself an electric impact, either corded or non-corded, doesn't matter. Got to have one in your collection, or even air. This was already loose, but a 30 millimeter socket fits that nut nicely. Go ahead and take that off. Okay, then we're gonna hit those two, but first let's take out these, all the surrounding bolts. 15 millimeter socket will work nicely. Take out all of these bolts. Okay, once those are out, we can attack that. Now there's a couple of ways to do it. Okay, I don't suggest doing this by hand because it's really hard and it has a higher tendency to strip. By the way, it's a T40 torque spit. I get on there with an impact, and usually I like to get some heat from a torch on that first. I'm all out of propane, so I'm gonna try just zipping those out first because it's on a transmission that's not that old. So we shouldn't have any issue with them being jammed in there too hard. If they'll start giving me trouble with the good old impact, and put a lot of downward force on it, rest your body over it and then squeeze the trigger, and if that doesn't do it, then you've got to put a torch on it. See if I can do this. I'm putting pressure on it, probably not enough, but yeah, see, these aren't that bad. Kind of start hitting it a few times like that. You don't want to just go full blown on it. That's a great way to mess everything up, right? So just give it a couple light squeezes of the trigger, just like that. Let's try this one, okay? Oh, geez. That was way too loose. Somebody has already been trying to take this apart in the past. So I'm glad I'm going through this because that should have had some good pressure on it. Anyway, if that doesn't work, get a torch on there, guys. All right, so you don't really have to remove them fully, completely. Just make sure they're loose. It's easiest when the trans is in the down position. All right, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and finish pulling all these bolts out, and I'm probably going to go ahead and get some kind of a puller on here before I turn the trans to the upright position. Of course, I'm going to take the shifter off too. I'll be back when most of that is done. So my Proto 2-jaw puller is my favorite. Here's the part number. You can get 3-jaw pullers at Harbor Freight. They'll work fine for a couple uses. This one, honestly, could probably use a 3-jaw puller, but I think, knock on wood, I think that I've got it to where we're gonna have some magic happen here. Well, let's see here. Bam. Okay, this removed by simple Allen keys. You might have the more traditional style shifter that extends by a couple of arms. I'll have to admit, this is definitely a much more solid piece of engineering. So the plastic cup is still in there, so I gotta find out further why it's sticking in 6th gear. I'm beginning to believe it's not this shifter, because I know these are pretty reputable pieces. So anyhow, I got that off. So from here, what I'm going to be doing is standing it straight up right on the bell housing, so then I can start to take apart this. The first thing I'm going to do is knock out all these tail housing bolts. That's another 15 sockets. Really, this isn't worth showing me zipping out a bunch of bolts, because that's exactly what I'm doing. Right? All of the bolts are removed, and like I said, that is RTV. That nut is gone and everything. Tremec does you the favor of giving you a couple pry marks. There's one here, and I believe there is one on this side of the case. Yeah, take my word for it, you'll find it. It looks just like that. So once again, this is loose. This has been off already. So somebody has been in here before they brought it to me, messed it up, and then put it back together to make it look like they weren't in it. And That's why 6th gear sticks, and it is not the shifter. I duplicated the sticking issue with the transmission, with the shifter off the car. So whatever the reason for 6th gear sticking is inside. So unfortunately, I cannot use both my hands at the same time and record. So I'm gonna go ahead and just simply slide that off. You can kind of see this happen, like I haven't done it before, which I just did, and put it back on so I can mock it back up. Bam, that's what it looks like. Also, we're gonna go ahead and pull this out, and you're gonna need that out. I believe that's a, let me see if I got the size. I know I do, but let me see if I can tell you what size that this thing is. I think it's a 3/16 punch. I'm almost certain of it. Right? The ones specifically for roll pins look like that. But you can use your standard punch set from Harbor Freight. It'll work just fine. You know, I used this for many years. You can tell by how bent it is. That's a Harbor Freight punch. So drive that pin out. Be careful when you do. Put your hand like that, or it will roll out into Neverland. All right, so here is our reverse gear. Okay, I believe this one is 6th, and the one underneath it I believe is 5th. Don't hang me if I'm wrong. So there's another little clip here that's gonna have to come off. You need a very, very small set of snap ring pliers for this. And these are the ones I've been using for quite some time. Let's see if I don't even know if there's a part number on it. But you get the idea. Very tiny. And that will take off that. Okay, you need, okay, the next tool you're gonna need, snap ring pliers for that. Notice the orientation. This clip is installed properly. The pointed end always slants up right here. Do not slant that towards the bottom or you'll never get that darn thing off. Okay, so let me find, without making too much of a mess here, I blocked my drawer, make life difficult. These are a pretty good set here of snap ring pliers. So I've been using these for a little while. I wore through my first set already. It was a different brand, but I used it for about 15 years, and now I'm using this set right here. And these will work very nicely on these as long as you're not trying to do it with one hand. Oh man, bam, look at that. Ha, that's with my left hand too. So we're gonna pull that off. Now, sometimes you can put a punch under here and drive it up, but that tends to be soft metal. Okay, so I will probably use my Proto 2-jaw puller once again on that. You can also, these are invaluable, you can put that underneath. That is the speedo ring. That's gonna be a press fit. Kind of a precarious setup, right? This is one way to do it. A bearing race under there will be the next step. The bearing puller, the black device I showed you. You gotta be careful not to get it underneath the clip. You gotta get it underneath the teeth here. And then we'll just go ahead and ratchet that out. I've only got one hand, but you don't need to see me put a drill on that. Look at that beautiful setup. All right, so I'm about ready to squeeze the trigger. Make sure that it goes underneath the speedo gear and not underneath that clip. So we'll see if this works or not. So it's gonna require 2 hands. I might have to get a bearing separator on that instead. Once I was able to use both of my hands, squeezing it like that, it actually zipped right off with no issues. So I'm gonna start putting stuff basically on order that it came off. I also take very detailed pictures with my phone each step of the way that I've done off camera. And those pictures I refer to just in case something does not go right. And I'm like, oh, what happened, right? Of course, I also have the video for backup that I'm making right now. But taking pictures is also a good tip. And you're like, why are you using this backwards? Well, you know what? Honestly, I found it works easier that way for some reason. All right. So go ahead and put that up there too. All right. This part is pretty simple. Consists of, we'll call that a race, even though it's not a race. And then, right, it's kind of sandwiched like that. So actually what I can do is this. Although all this so far is the same as the standard T56. There's nothing different yet. We got another one to remove here. Let's see if I can continue to do this one-handed. Good. Okay. So I'll put that there. Doesn't really matter if you remember which side is up, as long as you remember what direction it goes, like how I showed you. I should have removed that off camera already because that's gonna come back and screw me up. So I'm gonna do just that. But to show you what we have left, oh, this is new. Right here, some kind of a shim underneath and some kind of a lock ring. So I need to investigate that before I start disassembling that all. So it looks like we have, just like in that order, that's how those are on there. I'm gonna make sure to take a picture. So what I'm gonna do off camera, I'm gonna go ahead and pull that out, take pictures, and then I'll come back and pull this. Back at this one-handed. I have successfully driven out that pin. I took a magnet from the top side because the pin just fell. Well, it didn't fall all the way down, it just bang, right there, right? So I've got a couple of different trays. I use this one for the smaller parts. All right, and there's the rod that was in there, okay? And I took my pictures offline, so I know how everything goes. We're gonna go ahead and start pulling parts off. I'm gonna place stuff in the order that they came off so that I don't get confused, especially with this newer stuff here. A couple different shims, very interesting. I wonder if this is one way that they're using for shimming on this transmission. All right, so this should, that's the reverse gear, slide right out. First thing you wanna do is look at those teeth right there. That's what the synchro engages with, and man, that is like brand new. Very nice. Of course, look at the teeth for wear, make sure there's nothing chipped or broken. 9 out of 10 times you're gonna have issues with here, and that's where all the wear occurs, especially when you're having trouble getting it in the gear, and a lot of people just grind it. You can't find it, grind it. Yeah, that saying's not 100 years old. All right, so we're gonna go ahead, and I got that actually the wrong way. So, but since I'm putting stuff in the opposite that they came off of, okay. Right, that's how it came off of the transmission, just like that. All right, so that leaves us this, the bearing. We'll shove that back in the hole. Next should be the synchro. These are definitely different than the T56. 3-piece, let me see, sintered bronze, that's what they were referring to. It is definitely not carbon fiber. So for reverse, I wouldn't expect that anyhow. Since this is a 15 unit, I heard it comes with a hybrid synchros from the factory, which we're gonna find out. That is supposed to be a hybrid between sintered bronze with some carbon fiber material on the inside. The kit I'm going to get is going to be full, well, second is gonna be full carbon fiber, but I'm jumping ahead. So let's go ahead and put that facing down, just like so, okay? And this is so similar to a T56. Oh, those are new. No more aluminum or billet keys. Now we get plastic ones. Oh, and it looks like they're spring-loaded too, so be careful when you pull this out. I've seen keys like that before. That stuff loves to go flying. All right, next we're gonna go ahead and pull that off. We're gonna take that clip off, and then we're gonna slide this whole assembly out as one piece. All right, one-handed. Let's see here. Almost. Come on, come on, come on. Don't make me press stop on the record button. Okay. Woo-woo. All right. This guy is really small, and there's no other place that goes except for that one spot. So I'm gonna put that in my small parts collection. I've already removed this from where it was. Okay, so I'm gonna put that there. You know what, when I go off camera, I'm gonna clean this tray out a little bit more, get rid of all that dirt and grit so that doesn't find its way back into my transmission if I reuse any of those small parts. Next to this should, knock on wood, slide off. Let me see if I can set this up so that I can use two hands. All right, that'll work. Oh, no. It feels like the whole thing is gonna... See, it wants to slide out with those plastic keys that I told you about, and I know that if it does that, they're gonna go flying. Okay, see how this wants to... Well, that went flying down there. So I got to see what makes this tick. Let's see here. I always love getting into new transmissions. All right, ball bearing. Okay, let me see. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and slide this off, but I need to take pictures of this before I do. And then I want to come back. All right, so I wanted to show you what we have. Here's the slider. That's where these things pop in, and to tell you the truth, they're not that bad. I was expecting springs and check balls to go flying, and they didn't. Everything seems to be held in there pretty decently, and of course the ball will go into that middle slot on reassembly, right? Yeah, once again, check these teeth for wear. The slider is like brand new. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this down like that, because that's how we got it off. So we have another plastic ring under there. That's also new. I'm going to I have to use, once again, my 2-jaw puller on this to get it off. Oh, that's why somebody has been in here. There is supposed to be a snap ring right there. Ha! That's why it was sticking in 6th gear. It really irks me when somebody has been in a transmission beforehand and I find missing parts, especially when it's my first run going through one. Anyhow, luckily this is so similar to the old T56 that I've already found my problem. That is a heck of a relief. Now I know why it wasn't shifting. Without that snap ring, that's not going to be held in place from traveling too much or not enough, right? So the fork is having issues. So I'm going to get my 2-jaw puller on here, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to get it on this bottom one also. So I'll come back when I got it all set up. Boy, this is going to be a long video. So the beautiful thing about this particular tool is it's expandable to get really deep objects. I've even gotten the 3rd one on there too, right? And between these 3, there has been nothing on a T56 or any other Tremec that I have not been able to get to. That's it. Okay, I gotta press stop because if I drop this, everything's gonna go crashing to the floor. Ignore my ancient CD collection on the wall. Okay, so this part is new. So let's go ahead and remove what obviously is a lock. Need 2 hands, but obviously those pry out. Okay, you guessed it. 2-jaw puller time. That's what came off. That was holding that into place. I just shoved the screwdriver between the crack and tapped those out. So we're gonna go ahead and take that off. It's held on by a fair amount of pressure. That's gonna be fun to get back on. But now it is off. I would have told you next to remove this from right there, with your normal snap ring kind of pliers that you see every day. But that was already missing, like I spoke earlier, because somebody's already been in here. In the old days, this whole assembly, after you remove this clip, would just come right off, right? And that was one of the weaknesses on the early generation T56, is it had a two-piece counter shaft. This shaft was independent of the one inside the transmission. So what we're gonna do now, since this won't remove anymore, is we gotta remove it individually. So we're gonna pull this snap ring. I've never done this before, but I'm just going by logic here. And then this should slide right off. I don't know if it's pressed on or not. We will find out. And then after that, we're gonna pull that off, and we're gonna slide each one off at a time. By the time we get this one off, the fork should come right off. Actually, everything on here is a press fit, but I assume that's part of what makes this such a good transmission. So, I mean, I'm just doing this once again. This isn't held on by much pressure at all. This one was easy. So let's see if fifth gear, how much pressure is holding that one on. But first, let me take that off. And you guessed it. More clips, more clips, more clips. Okay. Okay. Okay, piece of cake. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and take those off. Put them upside down, I'll move them over. Check out our teeth. Once again, they look like brand new. Right, we're gonna take that off. We're gonna take that off, and then we're gonna pull the fork straight up. But I need to take some pictures, so I'll be back. Okay, so we have the bearing. And right underneath that bearing is a plastic race that I wanted to show you guys. That has to come off too. I'm gonna put that in order that it came off inside here. Give it to me. Okay. Naturally, the next step is to pull this whole assembly out. Okay, and the fork will come right out with that at the same time. So, right, completely off. So I'm going to pull this fork, because it's not exactly a one-handed issue, off camera. That slid off pretty easily off camera. The teeth on the slider look new. On both sides, that's acceptable. This is a 2015 Trans, 5th gear, sintered bronze. I was under the impression that this should have been some kind of a hybrid synchro from the factory. That's what everybody says it should have been, but it was not. All right, so we'll see what's left on the inside of the Trans. We get more of these lovely little doohickeys. It'll be fun to see how easy reassembly is, because they slide out from the fork so easily. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull these off, and I'll just put them right in the hole there. Those are obvious, they're only going one place on reassembly. All right, so I'm getting kind of burnt out here, but I gotta get this case off. One more clip. Okay, well, let's see if I can do it on camera. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this, I guess just, I'll put it right up on top. All right, I have a ton of pictures too. And I'm guessing this is another press fit. Let's see if I get lucky. And I don't. How am I gonna get that off? That is curious. There's a space right underneath here and a space right underneath there for a puller. That's probably what I'm gonna have to do. Let's go off camera. So I'm not particularly having fun with this transmission. It's definitely a lot more complicated than the original T56s. I was able to get a spot in there and barely in there to pull this gear off, and it off camera I started ratcheting it a little bit, and it seems to be coming a little bit. I'm doing this off car and slowly, off camera slowly, so I don't chip or break any teeth. Well, it was precarious and I didn't like it, but I went super slow, and it wasn't that the hub for the slider wasn't pressed on with too much force, so it slid off without too many complaints. I think that we don't have any issues with the any chipped teeth or anything on this gear. So this whole thing slides out now. Okay, this whole thing is coming out. You can see right here. I just need 2 hands to do it. Let's see here. Whatever, I need 2 hands. So of course under here we're gonna have a synchro. Look, another sintered bronze synchro. This thing's got the junk synchros. That slid out with 2 hands very nicely, leaving basically the case completely ready to pull straight up and out. So we're gonna go ahead and do one of those jobs again. Actually, I lied. Whew, getting burnt out on this. All right, so we're gonna just go ahead and put that on there. Came off, it looked the same on both sides, but it came off that direction. And then we'll go ahead and flip that around. All right, so we should be ready for this to pull off now. So, boy, somebody really got crazy with a Sawzall trying to make this cutoff wheel, trying to make this transmission fit, didn't they? Into a different car. I don't know what it's going into. Okay, good. Sorry for that stupid viewpoint, but I'm missing something. Oh, another punch to pull out. I drove this pin straight through off camera, and it's still in there. There's going to be a spring and a ball. So I'm going to do this with a helper because it will go flying if I don't. All right. Hold it right here. Okay. Sorry, try not to get anything but the transmission. Haha. There's the pin. And surprisingly, unlike other designs from the past, there's no spring and ball in this one. So it makes it easier for removal. So plastic cup inside there. This one is already broken. Usually I don't see them broken, but I'm going to go ahead and replace that. They do offer nice bronze units with that. So I know where this goes. I'm not going to forget that. Go ahead and aim it at the trans. All right, so here we have, hold on, Sarah, please. The inner workings. Looks like it slid in the gear in the process, not a big deal. All right, so first gear. And here's the counter shaft. This is the nice thing about, oh look, just FYI, here's another plastic ring. This is the nice thing about the TR6060. This is the one-piece counter shaft. That was a big weakness in the early 256 design. This should come, yep. So there we go. Now we're back into neutral. This should slide right out. Hold this, please. At least it used to slide right out. Let me remove it as one unit. Hold on. Let me. Oh, I heard something fall into there. Oh, more sliders. All right, so that's how it's going to remove. Wee. Oh, I should have prepared a flat surface. Woo! There it is. So that obviously fell out from the 3/4 slider. Not a big deal. I know how those go. Okay, thank you. Here we are again, and I honestly don't know if I'm going to post this video. This is just complicated, and I'm going to say it as a first-time user, you probably shouldn't be starting with a T56 Magnum, because I am just not having a good time with this thing. I can't not believe the amount of things that are pressed onto this transmission. I do have a heavy-duty press. It's a pain in the ass to use, so I'm going to try this. The fact that there's no clip on the end means it's probably held on by a ton of pressure. So I'm probably going to have to put it in my press. But I'm going to try this just to see what happens. Okay, so that wasn't that bad. It wasn't a ton of pressure. Of course, then again, I did use my 700 foot-pound impact, but it wasn't struggling, so I didn't force it. Excuse me. That's loose now. Beautiful. What was that went flying? Oh, probably something just fell. Whatever, man. I'm really burnt out on this transmission, and I'm not even at my halfway point. All right, so that's ready to come off. Okie doke. And no chipped teeth. Right. Yeah, thank God. Another press fit. Usually these bearings just slide on. I'm about ready to lose my crap over this transmission. I can't believe another item is pressed on under this. So here we go again. So I believe I've already discussed my displeasure for how many items on this transmission are physically pressed on. And it got to the point where I just got pissed and said, you know what, I'm not making this lousy video anymore. I'm just going to finish this thing up. In fact, I was thinking about walking away, but it was just getting upset because whenever you do something new, you know, it's slow moving and frustrating. So I've already assembled this with all the new synchros. Okay, so go ahead and blast me and give me the thumbs down and yell at me and tell me how horrible of a person I am. But I'm going to come through here and I'm going to mostly walk you through. So I had this and I clamped it onto here, and then I used my 2-jaw puller. I think I showed you this part. Okay, and that came off relatively no hassle. All right, so at that point, it's left this bearing, which unfortunately you're probably not going to be able to get off without destroying it. It's pressed on. So I used the bearing race. It was flat. I got it on there. I pinched it, and then this is the thing why I really like my proto tool. I was able to hook it just like that, and then it pulled the bearing straight up and off. Okay, so not a big deal. Here's the part number, O'Reilly's, across the street. They were able to get one within, a few hours, next day, whatever, 25572 is the part number on that. I wasn't able to pull it without screwing it up. So after that, disassembly is a cinch. So just remember to put everything back exactly how it came. So I'll show you a little bit, right? Okay. All right, so then the next thing we have here is a special lock ring. Okay. One of these days, I'm going to get a proper setup. God, since 2007, when I first opened up my YouTube account, I've been doing this by hand, right? Anyway, so you get the idea, okay? So I'm not going to fully pull this apart. I'm just kind of showing you what's up. Okay, I also want to show you how this goes together. And this is the new hybrid carbon fiber synchro. See, there's the carbon fiber on the inside, and it's still got the sintered bronze on the outside. All right, so here's the keys. Okay, they're made out of plastic now, and these are the easiest keys I've ever assembled on a T56. So I got to give Tremec props for that, as long as they last a long time. But I've never heard anyone complain about them. Those just literally push right in. Just make sure when you put your slider on, you've got the 3 indents. The middle indent is right there in the middle of the hole, all right? As for this, when you're putting this on, there's gonna be a synchro that's identical to this on the outside. I'm sorry, the bottom side. This tab lines up with that slot. So when you're pressing it on, make sure that you line it up like that, and then this will fit right into those tabs, okay? That's for assembly. So basically at this point, you can do this several different ways. Okay, I disassembled it down to this point, okay? And because it's getting kind of long, I don't think I would have been able to get my 2-job puller under here. This hub is pressed on. I just took the slider, pulled it straight off. The tabs came out, not a big deal, but that still left the hub that's pressed on, okay? And you can pull it off with this gear. If you can put the bearing separator under here and chuck it up in your press, you can do it that way. I cheated. What I did was I turned it around to work on the other end. Sorry, give me a second. I'm closing my press. Or whatever, you get the idea. I started on this side. So you've got, right, standard type clip. You're gonna pull that clip off. You can leave this bearing. No, I didn't put this damn wheel grease on. The other person did. As soon as you get that off, you're gonna be dealt with this, okay? Now, that is fixed on the hub, right? So this has to come up, this has to come down. 2 different ways. If you got a nice, crisp bearing separator, you can put it right underneath these teeth and just lift the gear off. Here too, just make sure you have enough surface area on that you don't break one of your teeth off. It wasn't held on by a lot of pressure, but basically put the bearing separator, or I actually did it up here. It had enough surface area, and I used the 2-job puller, and this whole thing came off with the hub, right? Then I just put it back on. I threw the bearing on. I lined up the tabs, and that was that. All right. Oh, okay. So let's. Anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and reassemble it how I had it, and then we're gonna come back and finish assembly. I wanted to mention something that I think I skipped over because I got too busy yapping earlier when I was trying to virtually walk you through a disassembly on this shaft, because I was about ready to give up on the video beforehand. I mentioned to go ahead and pull this off and leave these 2 pieces on, right? And then I told you to start on the top end. Remember, I told you these can come off. You don't have to even take this off. That can stay on. Well, after you pull these off, and the last thing I remember telling you to grip it down here if possible, or maybe up here, be careful. After you do that, then you're gonna be left with these 2 pieces on, and you can actually just get a hammer on the broad face of that, just tap, 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 and the whole assembly with the hub will just come down very easily. You could also press it up if you want, but you'll see, just there's not that much force. Tap, tap, tap on the gear face, and the assembly will slide back down quite easily.